Okay, so this is AI Module 2 from Salinas Union High School District. This is a repeat of the PD we did in person in May. So if you were unable to attend that, you are able to get this information today. My name is Jen Rogers. I am the Educational Technology Specialist for Salinas Union High School District. So thank you all for attending and watching. We are going to start off this session by playing, because who doesn't love to play a little bit? So if you have access to this, if you have the slides open, go ahead and click on where it says Launch Experiment under Musical Canvas. If you don't have the slides open, the bit.ly is in the bottom of the screen there, bit.ly/AI2SS24. And what Musical Canvas is part of the Google Arts and Education suite. So Google Arts and Education, or I'm sorry, Google Arts and Culture, not Google Arts and Education. Google Arts and Culture is a very, very cool website. If you have not yet played with it, I highly recommend it. You might find yourself on a rabbit hole and lose hours of your day, but what you'll learn is amazing. So Google Arts and Culture has basically a lot of virtual field trips that you can take to museums all over the world, to landmarks, the pyramids, Eiffel Tower, things like that. But you can also actually go into the museums and see artwork up close and see displays and everything. So it would be a really cool opportunity to take your students on virtual tours. So you can actually like go into the Louvre virtually and go and experience the Louvre through your computer. And the difference there, obviously, you know, if you can and go experience these things in person, it's amazing. But the difference between what you'd experience on in Google Arts and Culture is you can actually get up close and really, really zoom in on the artwork. So if you've ever been to the Louvre, you know that the Mona Lisa is like way over there. You can't get that close to it, and it's this big, right? So whereas in Google Arts and Culture, you can zoom into where you can actually like see the paint strokes on a lot of the artwork. So it's really, really cool, and you see all kinds of amazing stuff in there. But Google Arts and Culture also has a new some new features. They call them experiments. Everybody can hear me okay, right? Yes? Okay. Thank you. And these experiments are have an AI component. So let's launch Musical Canvas and take a look at that. So this is a lot more fun in person, I will just say, because what we don't experience in person is when everybody makes their drawing and generates their music. You can hear everybody's music, so that's pretty cool. But what Musical Canvas does is you draw a picture in this canvas, and if you don't have the tools, if you click on this little purple pencil thing on the bottom, come on, bottom right corner, it's not doing it. Supposed to have tools. Maybe once I get started, let me refresh. It's supposed to have tools. Okay, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what it does is you draw a picture, and it will give you, this is bothering me. Why is my tools not showing? Every other time it has a side panel on the left of like colors and pens and paint buckets and all that stuff that you can use to draw your picture. So I'm not sure why it's not doing it this time, but we're gonna keep going anyway. And I'm just gonna draw a picture with my one color. It is what it is. It's working for Jeannie. We should have Jeannie share her screen. I probably have to clear my cache, but that would kick me out of the meet, and we're not going to do that. So just pretend that I can change colors. So let me draw a picture here. I have red. Let's see, I'll draw a picture of a butterfly. And any picture that you draw, the AI is going to analyze that picture. I'm drawing with a cheap mouse, so don't judge my art skills here. And it's going to apply music to what it thinks the best fits the theme of your picture. So let's see what happens here with my boring one color lopsided butterfly. So it analyzes your picture and gives you music based on what you think, what it thinks is about this. So it also tells you what it thinks about your picture. This piece is slow, peaceful, classical piece that is perfect for relaxing and unwinding. There's my music. I've got some nice calming piano music. I also think it's interesting how it, so I'm going to turn this down so I can hear myself, how it gives me some opinions, yes, on my drawing. I appreciate the simplicity of the design and the use of native space creates butterflies' wings. So the AI recognized that I drew a butterfly. It asked about how I have native space there. I think you've got captured of a butterfly in a very simple and elegant way. Oh, that's so kind. That you're so kind to my love squigly butterfly. So, as you're playing with this, what kind of music came up for you, and what did you draw? Okay, sorry for my dog. I had to work from home today because they're shampooing our carpets in the office today and tomorrow. Why not wait till everything starts to shampoo carpets, right? I'll cut this part out of my recording. So I apologize if it happens again. I the mailman might come back. So we have somebody drew a cartoon duck and got some guitar, fiddle, and banjo music. Drew a house and got some slow guitar music. So Alfred, I'm curious, what did you draw that you got fast-paced electronic music with a strong beat? What did you draw for that? LA, like the city, or just an L and an A like the Dodgers? Bleeding blue over there. A genie, the sun, and a heart, the music to match. Appreciated AI's interpretation the most. That's cute. What kind of music did you get? Sunshine lovey music. So Cecilia drew a heart and got calming music. Drew a smiley face and got fast-paced upbeat guitar music. Cool. So what's really cool about doing this in the classroom is that you could do it as like a SEL check-in. How are you feeling? How was your weekend? And you get kind of an audio quick snapshot of how people might be feeling. It might not exactly match, but if students are drawing something that's calm and peaceful, or that you ask them to draw a calm and peaceful picture, you start to hear all this calm, peaceful music coming from their Chromebooks, and it can be very like soothing atmosphere for the start of a class. Or you can have them draw whatever they want, and then you have a conversation about AI and how it analyzed your picture, what it might have been thinking to give you the type of music it gave you. Teresa, we see where Steve's mind is. I got you. I see you. Strong rock music. Awesome. So I drew some skyscrapers with a man in the front and got some electric dance music track. Cool. Yeah, so I hear you. When we've done this in person, I've heard a lot of peaceful, calming music, piano music, things like that. We've heard some electronic dance music. And one time we got a country song, which we haven't not yet been able to get a country song again. So challenge accepted. So this is something that you can use with your students. And I know that there's a ton of creative minds in here that will think of ways that this could be used. And this is just one of 17 tools that Google Arts and Culture has in their AI repertoire. Let me close this, and we'll take a look at some of those, or at least there's links to those later. One of the ones I really like that brings up student AI discourse. Go away. Okay, come back to my slides here before I close. Here we go. Is one called The Odd One Out, which remind me, and we'll talk about that later as well. Yeah, students really do like this. It's different. It's not something that they see as much. So, and thank you for sharing, James. I will look forward to clicking on that later on. Okay, so let's go to the right window. Here we go. So just a quick refresher of definitions for those who either attended in person back in January or even attended virtually this week. Some quick definition refreshers. Predictive AI uses historical data to make predictions about future choices. So we talked about Netflix and YouTube giving you examples of giving you suggestions on what you might like based on your watch history, as well as the watch history and of people with similar demographics to you. Generative AI actually creates new content. It generates new content such as text, images, or music, and that generation is based on interaction with the user, with you. And the prompt is what you give the AI system to create what you want. And we did in module 1, we did some prompt practice. So if you missed that, we will have the recording available in the next few weeks. So one of the, when all this started and ChatGPT came out in November 2022, wow, there was a lot of extra numbers in there. 2022, there was a lot of concern about it, potential risks, especially, and there was also, people started identifying potential benefits for this in education, such as being able to differentiate content for students and to meet their learning needs, potentially tutoring and personalized assistance, helping with assessment design and effective feedback, and also just general efficiency of working in the education system. And obviously, some of the concerns were compromised privacy, which we're going to talk a lot about shortly, diminished student and teacher agency and accountability, misinformation. So these are all valid concerns and part of what needs to stay in the active discourse on AI with professionals as well as with our students. So we're going to talk about student AI literacy as well. And these are things that would need to come up in those conversations with students so they're aware and ready to use AI in the work that they do, excuse me, when they enter the workforce and college as well. So today we're going to talk about the current updates in AI. We're going to talk about some guidelines and suggestions, and there is some examples of workflow for teachers, but we probably won't go on that, spend much time on that, but the slides are there for you to peruse later. We're going to talk about AI digital literacy for students, and we're going to look at some ways to use it in the classroom as well. So AI is everywhere. If you haven't noticed, it is like everywhere. Any technology you use, you're going to find some component of AI, it seems. So we already talked about the predictive AI that you might use on your streaming platforms and Amazon and all of that. But it is also in social media. There is Instagram, Facebook has Meta AI. If you use Snapchat, now you have an AI friend. That is very strange, but they added a friend to my friends list that says my AI, and I've played with it just out of curiosity as I'm constantly trying to learn more about how AI works. And it can be used the same way that like ChatGPT would be used, where you can ask it to generate things, but then also it can use it as a friend, which is weird and kind of sad. So it's a weird little thing, but it's everywhere. It is also in a lot of the programs that our district already has licenses for and is using on the regular, such as Quizzes, Formative, Canva, and Padlet, just to name a few. So if you are a user of Quizzes and Formative, when you log into Quizzes, you see this Quizzes AI, and if you click on it, AI will actually support you in writing a lesson or creating a lesson or writing a quiz or analyzing responses, or I think it even, there's another function it does. Formative is the same way. You can use Formative to auto-generate an entire quiz or lesson. And then of course you as the expert, with the professional expertise of your teacher education and experience, go in and look at what if it creates and adapt it for your students, for your classes, for your content, so you can't rely on it 100%, but it does save a lot of time in the initial generation. We're going to play with Padlet a little bit later as well. It has a lot of new features with it that use AI, and so we're going to take a look at that. And Canva has some image generators and things like that. So it's everywhere, and it's definitely not going away. It's just going to become more prevalent. So I apologize about this slide. First off, this is an old slide from our May presentation. The updated slide was as of June 2024. There's actually 15 US states that have AI guidance for education. So I think it was like Colorado and Missouri, some other some states in the middle that have guidance from the state level about using AI in education. And so it's actually 15 as of June. So the conversation is expanding and being recognized, and so that we can be proactive about this and make sure that we are safe. Which brings us to our next point about AI challenges. So we have an AI committee in the district. It's pretty small right now, but we're always willing to expand it. So a group of us from that committee went to a conference in April where we went into this conference. It was specifically AI education conference. And we went in thinking, cool, we're going to find the programs we want to use. We're going to find ideas and ideas for incorporating it, getting students in, and all that stuff. What really happened is that we started learning about the privacy and data security with these companies and what we need to look out for, which really caused us to kind of pull back, especially when it comes to what students will have access to and experience, until we can guarantee 100% their data and privacy security. So this is an example of some things that we have to look out for. So if you think about when ChatGPT first emerged, by January, it was November that it was announced to the public. And by January, there were maybe 3 companies that were based in education that came out. And now there's like 400, 500. They're just sprouting out of the cracks in the sidewalk. They're everywhere, which obviously is not sustainable. Those companies are either going to flourish and be great, or they're going to go out of business, or they're going to be bought out by bigger companies. So this is where we really have to be careful and look at those terms of service and privacy policies. So this is an example of the privacy policy from DFIT, which is a program that helps write lesson plans and create graphic organizers and things like that. So here's an example. There are 5 bullet points here. We may share your personal data. We may share or transfer your personal data. We may share your personal, we may disclose your personal data. We may disclose any of your personal data. So those are things that we really have to look at and consider. And one that we didn't think about, but was brought to our attention by our IT director, Mike Allen, who went to the conference with us and really helps us get that other side of things, because the educators were all like, yeah, let's do all the cool things, and the technical aspect of it and the legal aspect of it is that we have to really be careful. So this second bullet here for business transfers, we may share or transfer your personal data in connection with or during negotiations of any merger, sale, or company assets, financing, or acquisition of or a portion of our business to another company. So that's basically saying that while we might have created a secure connection with you now with your personal data, when somebody else buys it, that's not a guarantee, right? So we know that these companies are going to be bought up. So we have to be very, very careful with our data and our students' data to make sure it's not just going out there to everybody and anybody. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where our personal data is currency, which I find very strange and annoying, because I don't feel like my social security number should be currency for somebody else. I don't feel like my home address and my cell phone number, but that's the world, that's the reality of the world we live in, is these businesses make money with our personal data. So we have to be very, very careful of that. So another thing to consider is intellectual property. So this is again from DFIT's Terms of Services, where it's basically saying that anything that you create with DFIT belongs to DFIT and can be used by DFIT either free, or they can get actually like earn money from it, which most of what oh, sorry, my dog again. Hold on. Okay, we did a settle. We should be good now. Good boy. Okay, he's a very good guard dog. Okay, so as I was saying, what people would mostly use DFIT for is creating lessons or student lesson materials. And as a teacher, usually we don't care about other people using those things. We like to share. Sharing is caring. But it is something to consider if that's something you don't want to do. Settle down. Good boy. Sorry. And if it's something that you're creating that's closer to actual intellectual property that you do not want publicly out there, and you do not want people making money off of your intellectual property, that is definitely something to consider. So there are companies that are very responsible with this, and companies that we have to push back on as well. So this is an example of terms of service specifically with student data, that this company Brisk, if we were to enter into a relationship with them where they have student data as part of the processing and they have a connection to our student data, that we have to actually sign their agreement to make sure that they're safe, that we are safe, that our students are safe. And there's laws that that govern this as well. So something to consider is that anything that connects to Google Classroom has a back channel connection to Synergy, which is our student information system. So because this is all new, we don't know where everything is going, coming from, how the data loops are working. If something has access to Google Classroom, it may have back channel access to student information, including health information, home addresses, social security numbers, learning disability information. There's a lot of stuff in the student information system. So if you are coming across programs that you want to try out, please, please, please contact IT, contact your ed tech, and we will help you go through the channels to make sure that this is safe for students. This is a lot to ask teachers to go through all the fine print and look for these things, but there are tools to help you with that, with the understanding that teachers don't have time to read all of the terms of services, but it is something to be very, very aware of so that you're not just clicking accept, 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 like we all are guilty of doing when those buttons come up, just, yes, I don't have time to read this, accept, accept, accept. You really need to be careful with what you're accepting, especially if it connects to other programs that we use. Is there any questions about that so far? And of course, if there are, please feel free to raise your hand or ask in the chat, unmute your mic, etc. So I mentioned that there were laws that govern this. There are 3 laws that we must make sure we are compliant with in any company that we connect our data to. So that one of them is the FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which is the personally identifiable information and educational records part. There's the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act, COPPA, which is to make sure that our minor students are secure and safe in their online interactions. And then there's also the HIPAA laws, which is when anytime you go to a doctor's office, they make you sign that thing that says you have been given the HIPAA law information. So that is the Health Information Protection Act. So, and because our student information system does have health information, we also must follow the HIPAA laws as well. So lots to think about. And it's not just, I think sometimes people get frustrated because IT says no to a program, but there's a lot that has to be considered. So just keeping that in mind. I want to skip this slide for a moment and come to the guidelines and suggestions. These are links to other sites that have resources that will help you to understand acceptable use policies and that kind of thing, as well as like what to look for. I really like this Merlin Mind link. So if you click on that, it shows you this AI adoption checklist, and it has teachers and administrators. So the administrators would be like IT and that kind of thing. So you would be looking at the left side checklist, which is down the checklist for teachers, and it has a lot of things to think about. What is this going to be used for? What information is accessible? What is the privacy and security for the data privacy? Does it meet these laws? Does it do the same as something that we already have access to that we know for sure is secure? So just some things to think about. Now, having said that, again, teachers are way too busy to go through this whole list, which is why we have the AI committee, the IT department, your ed techs can connect you in the right location for going through this. So we're not asking you to do all the work yourself, but just to be aware of it so that the right channels can be used. Okay, coming back to the slides, I'm gonna go back to the potential divide. So this is a little out of place in these slides right now, but that's okay. So we've talked a lot about the digital divide in education. Some of that has closed since the pandemic. It's not all the way closed, obviously, because some students have much more access to digital resources than others. There is now another aspect of that called a potential AI divide. And so this is something to consider because AI is going to be in their life when they enter their careers in college. They are going to have to know how to navigate it. And so while right now they can't use it as under 18 in the classroom, we can't ask them to use it. They're probably using it on their own and we can't control that, but that's not even part of what we can do. But if we keep the conversation open and we have that literacy we help build their AI literacy, it's going to help to close that divide. So just another thing to consider. Okay, so having talked about all that legalese, I know I'm talking so much. This is a lot of information that is very important to discuss in this particular module. So it's a lot more talking than normal, but it's very important. So what are some best practices? Read the fine print. We talked about the data privacy policies. Get some help with that. Don't use personally identifying information. Anything that you put into AI, make sure it does not have names, addresses, numbers, anything that can identify a student. Change to general pronouns, he, she, they, instead of their names, or use fake names. Keep things like locations and addresses out of that. Keep it very general. Another thing to consider is if you are using it to give feedback on student assignments, if you get the assignment from Google Classroom and download it as a doc or PDF, that file name has their student information, their student ID number in the file, as well as their name. So you want to make sure that you're not using those files with that file name and uploading it into the whichever AI program you're using. Copy and paste is a much better way of getting their work into AI for feedback. Another thing is considering what the assignment is that you're putting in for feedback. Like you wouldn't want to put something that is, what do they call them? Personal reflection paper. There's a specific name for that, but clearly I'm not a high school English teacher. But maybe like a literary analysis or a science report, science project report, those kind of things that don't have personal information in them. Just keeping in mind what it is you're putting in there and if it's appropriate. Be mindful for biases and misinformation. There is a lot of biases built into AI, and it's getting better as they're being identified. But in the beginning, I did notice that it's very whitewashed. Unfortunately, I was using AI for image creation for a while now, and I would get a lot of white people, and I'm like, that's not what the world looks like. I'm just one small segment of what the world looks like. So I was really excited when one day I was asking for a Victorian woman in a pink dress with horse or whatever it was. And the program I was using gave me 4 choices. And one of them was a Black lady. And I was like, oh, finally. It would give me that if I asked specifically for, a specific ethnicity, or if I asked specifically for a diverse group of individuals. It would give me diversity if I asked for it. So it's getting better, but it's definitely has biases built in. And that's just one example. And then making sure that the tool that you are using has a clear purpose and that it's transparent in how they work. So what is the purpose of this? And do I really understand what it's trying to do? Or does it seem a little like, how does it take information and what? Like, oh, that's a little weird. So just being very critical of these programs. Any questions so far before we talk about AI literacy and we play a little? Okay, if they do come up, please feel free to ask. All right, so we've touched a little bit on AI literacy. Oh, I heard a question. Raised hand, Charles.
Yeah, I was wondering, in Canva specifically, as my students are working on like images and they're making posters for our plays and all of that, is Canva one of those companies that can use their creations for their own purposes?
No. So anything that we have sponsored by the district or vetted by the district that we pay for licenses for, or like Canva is free, but we have a district agreement and all of that. Those are all safe. So quizzes, formative, Padlet, Canva, those have all been vetted. Their privacy, their terms of services have been vetted, and those are good to use.
Okay, perfect.
Google Arts and Culture is okay because you're not putting identifying information in. There's no direct connection to any of the internal data in the system, and that kind of thing. So
okay, thank you. I
great question, though. I really appreciate that question. So with getting the students more literate about AI is going to be exposing them to things that use it, even though we can't ask them to use ChatGPT. We can't say go to ChatGPT and do this. We actually have to tell them not to do that because they're under 18. There are other ways that we can have this conversation. So we talked about Google Arts and Culture, and just real quickly, we won't play the game because we don't have a lot of time. If you click on Google Arts and Culture link there, you can see share this tab instead, that there are 17 items that they have so far of these games and activities that use AI. And I really like this one, Odd One Out, that you can have students play. Basically, they give you 4 pictures of artwork, whether it's a carving or a picture, a photograph or painting, whatever it might be, and you have to try to figure out which one is AI generated and which one's real. So it's challenging. It's much more challenging than you might think, but it also opens up the opportunity for a conversation about what you're seeing online may not always be real. It could be AI generated, and it might not look like it's AI generated. So it's an opportunity to have that conversation. I've heard of teachers playing it all together with their students, or having them play individually, or having it be like a early finishers thing, that kind of thing. There are some lessons from Common Sense Media as well, and some links there for you to use. But I want to come to this next slide, and I encourage you all to join me on this. I want to look at what Padlet has, and this is where we're going to play a little bit. So I just realized I'm not showing the right tab. So there are 2 links here on the left side of this slide that are from Padlet, and both of these are lessons that Amber Dodd did with her Avid class last year. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the first one here, Design Your Dream House. So in Avid, you talk a lot about what you want your future to look like, and so this was use this tool to create your dream house, so you can start thinking about what you might need to have to eventually get to the point where you can have your dream house. So you can see what the students entered, and then as well as what they thought about it. So for example, Devaney here, this is the prompt she put in was medium-sized realistic house with snow around, cold climate. And then she could also, or they could also explain why this is their dream house after it already came up. I'm guessing this was probably a hot day in Salinas, so they wanted a colder climate. But it also gives you a chance to see the more detail that students got, the more close to what they were looking for. Spanish style mansion, they got a watercolor style painting, which, if they said show a photograph of a Spanish style mansion with palm trees or whatever, they might get more information. So this is just an example of this tool in Padlet called I Can't Draw, which is I'm just not sharing the right tab again, and I apologize, which is a terrible name for this tool because I hate the language of I can't draw for that, but that's what they called it, so I'm going to go with it. But I want to bring us to the second link on this slide that says recreate this image with a pink background. So if everybody can click on that where it says recreate this image, kind of a pinkish color, it's going to open to this tab with a bunch of flamingos and pools. And so this is again from Miss Dodd's classroom, using this tool to try to recreate the same image that she created. So the first one here, just make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Yes, it says original art Amber Dodd. This, and it's pinned. This is the picture that she created using I Can't Draw. And she did not include her prompt in here because she wanted students to create their own prompt to try and recreate the image that she made, that she had AI make. And so I did this as an experiment as well, and it was very, very eye-opening for me. So I am now going to invite you to also try to recreate this image. So if you click on it, it expands and is a little bit bigger, so you can think about what kind of words and adjectives you would use to describe this picture to see how close that you can get to recreating this image. So to do this, go ahead and click on this purple plus button and to add your part, and then click on where it says I can't draw, and then write what you want to draw. That's where you're going to describe the picture to your best of your ability to try to match it to the original artwork. And you can actually post this when you are done. So I'm just going to do a quick one. Flamingo, pool, float. And you are welcome to add your images to this Padlet as well, so we can see what everybody came up with. Okay, so it gave me 4 options, and from here I can choose which one I think is closest to the original artwork, or I can come back to my prompt and add some more description and palm trees and another prompt to see if I can get closer. So one thing to know about AI image generation is you're never going to get exactly the same thing that somebody else got. It's never going to happen. And it opens up a conversation for students about one, how you can't recreate somebody else's work, right? But also what I found the most enlightening about this, I think I'm going to pick this one here. So just so I can show you the process here, I'm going to put my name and the date since I did this yesterday as well. So I can, and then I'm going to submit it. Now my design is going to show up on the bottom here. And it'll be fun to see if you can put on your post your name so that we know who came up with what, so we can kind of see what was students versus what was people attending these sessions. What I really found as a valuable lesson for me in this activity when I first tried it is the importance of language acquisition in writing a prompt that was descriptive enough and had enough adjectives and language in order to get an outcome that was as close as possible to the original image. And I kind of got lost in a wormhole with this as well. I just kept going, and I really had to dig deep with my vocabulary and my language skills, and as a veteran teacher, to try and get as close as possible. And it was really fun, and it was also very eye-opening, showing that students cannot rely on AI to do the work for them, because if they do not have the language skills necessary to write a prompt to get an outcome that they're looking for, as well as students need to have background information about what they are trying to get out of AI in order to determine if it is accurate as well, because AI will give you things that are not 100% accurate. It will have hallucinations in it. And if students are just mindlessly plugging in a prompt and taking whatever it spits out, there's highly likely that there's going to be some issues there if they don't have the background knowledge to assess whether it's good outcome or not. So let's take a look at real quickly before we wrap up for the session, what we got. So we've got a flamingo on top of the donut. I like this. I noticed that most of these are like more straight on views, whereas Ms. Dodd's original art was more of an aerial shot. That was something that I had to add to my language as I was trying this. And then there's the type of image. So we have paintings, we have kind of drawing sketches. I had to say a photograph of this, so it would be closer to the original artwork. Yeah, so while this, particularly the flamingo thing may not directly relate to your classes, you can see that there's potential here, depending on what subject you're doing, what content you're covering at that time, but also just with practicing your English. This would be a great lesson as you are working on adjectives in the English class. Okay, so we are close to time here. So quickly, I'm going to go through this. The slides there's examples of teacher workflow. These are videos that teachers in our district made. You can look at those on your own time. There's some examples of comparing feedback from different programs on student work. You can look at those. I'm kind of going fast here because we're almost out of time. Being good digital citizens and showing that we are citing our sources even when they are created by AI. We all still have to cite our sources. So all of these images were created by AI with Amber Dodd's prompts, but I do not have the feedback link in here. So real quick, before you leave me, let me get you that link right here, very quick. I'm going to put it in the chat to provide feedback on this session. Okay, in the chat, pinned, go. So thank you so much for attending. I really, really appreciate your feedback. If you can take, I know it might take you a minute into your lunchtime, and I apologize. We did have that slow start with technical difficulties, and thank you so much again for your patience. But I really do appreciate your feedback to try to make these sessions as useful and productive for you as possible. We will be continuing these modules and more into the school year with the About AI. So we're always looking for feedback to make them the best possible. Once you're done with that, have a great lunch. If this is the end of the day for you, have a great day. If you're coming back for the afternoon, summer symposium sessions. I hope that you enjoy and learn amazing things. Otherwise, go enjoy your lunch break. And thank you so much for attending and interacting with us. And I will stick around for questions if you have questions as well. Stick around for a couple more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording so that